I'll go ahead and make a few comments. First of all, as always, I want to thank our sponsors. So, Capital Factory is providing us. They have a private event in the other space there. They're usually slammed at South by, and so they still made accommodation for us here. So, definitely want to thank them. And then my company, Continuum Analytics, as well as UStudio. We had kind of a mixed up with a sponsor this time, and we both of our companies stepped up at the last minute to sort of sponsor this meetup. And Josh is right there. Raise your hand, Josh.
Way to go, Josh. Thank you.
So we'll both be kind of doing our spiels in a second, but I wanted to talk real quick just a little bit about the meetup itself. We passed the elite mark. We passed 1337 members. I got an email from Meetup about that. I was like, ooh, that's a good number. We only get there once, right? So we have now 8 years. So we're going on our eighth year now. And if you dig down into the, before we were on Meetup, we were on the Python.org wiki, and then we were organizing on the Austin Python page there. And if you look at the very first Meetup list there, it was like 3 people showed up. And then someone talked about something, but now we're in our 8th year, and we've got 3 other sister meetups here in town: the Austin Web Python meetup, the PyLadies ATX, and Austin Learn Python. So it's just an amazingly vibrant community. We are one of the larger Python communities in the world, in fact, not just the country. And so I want to thank all of the sponsors over the years, all of the presenters, and all the members who keep coming. Right. So this is really the membership is what makes people come back. Basically, is they come here, they talk with bright people, and they decide to come back again because they're going to just run into more like no nonsense, nice, solid technical people. So thank you everyone for coming. And so that brings us to the next point, which is that I would like this year, we're trying to kind of get a more organized sponsorship sort of thing set up. And so we've actually been working on a prospectus that's sort of almost finalized now. But basically we have sort of 3 tiers, and we like for companies to sort of get in a situation rather than all of the APUG and OPUG organizers sort of pinging them every month about sponsorship. Companies coming up and saying, we're going to sponsor 6 meetups this year. And the total cost is actually quite small. It's in the very small single-digit thousands to even do 6 sort of come up for 6 meetups. Relative to a conference or something like that, it's really very, very cheap. But what it does do is it gives us a sense of, basically lets us plan, gives us continuity, and lets us put more attention into actually organizing the content and getting people to, driving people, prodding them, whatever, to actually present and pulling presentations together. So if you guys are own a company or at a company, have some pull with people at a company who would be the people we should get in touch with the prospectus, let me know. You can also email us at it's not APUG organizers, it's APUG organizers. Google groups. So you can also just ping me on Twitter. But basically, when we get this out, you'll see there's a bunch more perks. So we're trying to get this more organized. We'll have a placard out there. We'll have you saw at the beginning kind of the slide, and then we'll have sponsor information on there. So if you come in at the silver and the gold level, there's going to be a lot more visibility for you. We're going to have many more sort of formal announcements go out to membership. We'll have a blurb about your company at the bottom, things like that. So that's the sort of thing that we want to do. Again, we have 1,300 people at least signed up. Not all are active, but it's a significantly large portion of geeks that are actively using Python or have used Python or are looking to use Python. Any questions about that? Any questions, comments? Okay. Upcoming events. PyCon obviously is coming up in about a month. How many people are planning on going? Just show of hands. Really?
Going to what?
To PyCon. It's Montreal.
I tarried and missed
So
out.
far.
Yeah, it is far. It's true.
I tarried and missed out.
It is a long way to walk.
It's so far.
So really, so no one? So besides me and Tipton, no one else is going to PyCon? Seriously? Awesome.
Are there subsidizations for that?
So that means you just get to speak again and tell us all.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of videos online for that. So what was your question?
Is there a way to get paid to go to PyCon?
Yeah. In fact, we have a lot of recruiters hitting me up all the time about Python-oriented jobs. Usually, you can put in as part of your salary negotiations, like I need to be able to go to 2 or 3 technical conferences, right? As part of just put that in there.
Yeah.
And that's how you get subsidized. Now, there's an argument as whether or not that basically is coming out of your pre-tax income, but that's I'm sure we'll have more. Yes.
Talk about that later.
Yeah, she'll talk about that later.
It's probably the case that all the people who are going to PyCon are also going to the South by Southwest events tonight, so they're not here.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Though Interactive ended last night.
Interactive did end last time. Does it ever end? Does it ever end? All right, so PyCon is coming up, though. You'll see more activities, of course, on Planet Python, things like that. People announcing, talking about their talks. I know in Chicago at their Python meetup, they're doing sort of pre-PyCon sort of trial presentation, or not trial, warm-up practice presentations. But anyway, if you guys like, what we typically do, I guess, is we do after PyCon, we do a kind of PyCon wrap-up little spiel. So I was hoping to, whoever raised their hand, I'd be able to rope them into doing that. But unfortunately, it's going to be just I'm roping myself and one other. No, there'll be other people. I'll see people out there, even if you didn't raise your hand. I'll see you there. PyData in Silicon Valley. That's how many people do some kind of data analysis, big data, whatever, with Python here? Great. So PyData Silicon Valley. That's actually that's the second time we're doing it out in the West Coast. That's going to be at Facebook headquarters. So Facebook stepped up and gave us the venue. So that's going to be 400 people, tutorials, talks, whatever. And I'm wearing the shirt for the London event. But definitely look into that if you're not already signed up. The call for proposals, I think, is just, or the call for talks is just going out. And then PyTexas, I guess, is in the stages of being bid and organized right now. Yes.
You're saying that they didn't close in PyData, didn't close talks?
I don't think so. Not for Silicon Valley. No.
Okay. Thank you.
I think the call for talks is still open, right? And then
Is there one scheduled for later in the year?
Yes. So this is so there's PyData Silicon Valley that's going on in May. Then in July there's going to be as part of EuroPython there's a PyData Berlin, and then in probably October again there'll be PyData New York.
Okay.
So it's not clear if we're going to do a Boston event again this year, or if we're going to do maybe Chicago if there's interest there. There's some talk of DC. There's a huge number of people who use Python there and can't talk about it. So we might be able to get them to, I don't know. They can all show up and not talk about it, I guess. That's just drink coffee. Say what?
All the organizers, like you're saying, it's
So that's NumFocus. That's NumFocus, and sort of loosely affiliated with Continuum, but really it's like one person. Like so, Leah, her, she's kind of in the back office there. She runs that with the local communities, right? So she's been organizing with the Facebook people. In London, there was London Ground Crew. So it's really actually these are run by sort of local ground crews through the PyData organization. So, and then
Is
yes.
the early bird pricing ended on PyData?
I don't even think it's begun. I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked at the registration page.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it has though. Maybe.
So if we want to save money, register now.
Yeah, well, that's good call to action, right? So if you're interested in that, definitely check out pydata.org. PyTexas is also, who all here is are any of the PyTexas people here or right? So do you have a spiel about that, or you want to talk about that at all?
We're not ready to talk about it.
Okay.
Other than it's good.
Follow Twitter. Follow PyTexas on Twitter, right?
Right. I
And
mean,
keep your eyes open.
the PyTexas this year they haven't finalized the deals.
Right.
We do have an active group bidding to have PyTexas here in Austin for 2015.
For next year, right? But this year it's going to be last year College
They have
Station,
not
right?
announced the details.
Okay. All right.
We're not involved. It's not our fault.
Right, and something to note also just about the dynamic. I don't know how many people sort of paid. How many people submitted a proposal to PyCon here? Anyone? Right. So this year, PyCon what concretely was sort of implementing their strategy of PyCon's getting too big. It's sort of at the biggest size that it's going to get, and they want more regional Python sort of events. So I guess PyOhio, PyTennessee, PyTexas. All of these local Python sort of conferences, the PSF is putting more emphasis on those. So if you see those, if you're in the area, if you know friends who are in those areas, encourage them to attend those and kind of help get those things going, because they're not a flash in the pan. They're going to be around, and that's part of the overall PSF strategy, I believe. And so then lastly, sort of suggestions and ideas from everyone here. People are busy stuffing their face and whatnot, but if you want to email, there's other things we can do besides just having the monthly meetups. There were suggestions. I know someone suggested kind of a data processing, just a event or meetup on the Meetup.com page. Anyone in the membership can suggest a new meetup. Just so we're clear, So if there's something you want to hack on, something you want to play with, if you want to just do the Python Raspberry Pi, or you want to do Python game hacking or whatever, like suggest that, create that thing and suggest it. Yes.
I want to explore the async IO package in Python 3. If anybody else wants to explore it with me, welcome to set up. I'm happy to set something up.
How many people here are using Python 3? There you go.
Zedshot.
Yeah.
You recommend against that?
Zedshot does recommend against that.
Interesting. So, well, everyone who didn't raise their hand is on Python 2, right? So that's sort of, but they're getting closer together, and there's more carrots now. 3.4 is, I think, now released. Is it?
No,
It's in final sort of like release candidate phase. So yeah, more impromptu meetups. I know a large part of the fun of these is after we're all done, everyone's tired of hearing me talk, we go and grab beer and everyone talk to each other. That's a lot of the fun. So if there's more impromptu meetups, things like that, definitely would encourage people to organize and put those things together themselves with others on the through the meetup.com site. And then hack nights, we've done years ago, we did like a hack weekend sort of thing. But if people are interested in that, also please suggest that sort of thing. And then if people want to just get more skills and they want to work on a site, like you want to work on a website together with someone else, learning some of the basics of some of the web programming stuff or any of the other sort of aspects of that, the austinpython.org site can definitely use more contributors to just kind of get that really going. And we talked about that a long time ago. Josh was one of the people who put it together, and Travis Weisgood, who's not here. Some others put that together. If people want to work on that, that's a great project to hack on. Please get in touch. And then any additional kinds of content. If people have suggestions, please email and let us know, and we can put that together. Any other comments while I have the slide up? Yes?
Call for presenters. Andrew is serious when he says he's going to present to us again multiple times about generators. So you guys have to save us from that.
It's a generator that does not yield stop iteration, right? So
I will yield from, but you had better step up.
there you go.
If anybody wants to present, all you have to do is volunteer.
It's not scary. In fact, I'm going to lead off today with a very tiny little lightning talk that's a little bit crazy, but it's going to be really short. And so that's the sort of thing, please, everyone, see a lot of new faces. I encourage everyone to just come up, talk about your startup, talk about your project, talk about a startup you want to do, right? We've had a couple of talks like that in the past. So we just want to hear from other people.
And if I can amplify that, the number one thing that can differentiate you from the other guys in the room is communication skills. It's not how fast you can type or how deep you know this particular library. The programmers who can communicate are the ones who get ahead. So this is an excellent, presenting is an excellent way to get better at that. So it's good for you. Do it.
Yes. Hallelujah.
This is a very friendly forum, and so it's a very, very friendly forum.
Amen.
Great way to get your feet wet presenting. Okay, well, any other comments? Anyone want to present next month on something? Just do it. You want to.
Hey, I already have a presentation ready to go, guys.
Andrew's got a presentation ready to go.
Where do we sign up for presentations if we want to present something? Is there?
Yeah, so on Meetup, you can either just email Python-188,
okay.
and you can say, I want to present about this, anyone else interested, or you can email me directly, or any of the organizers on the, on the Meetup.com page. There's contact the organizers,
okay.
And we get those emails. So
And I will always, I promote a lightning talk 2 weeks before this date, so you can just respond to that too.
Okay. You said it was Python-188.
yeah, at Meetup.com. Or if you just go to meetup.com/AustinPython, there's a contact the organizers, or you just put a comment in.
Right.
There's not so much traffic that we miss. Like we see everything that comes in there. So,
Okay.
With that, Josh, would you like to talk about the openings at UStudio?
Sure. So I'm just talking about here.
Okay.
Because we're already an hour in. So real quick, UStudio is hiring. Actually, in general, I think one of the great things about such a fantastic.
Sorry to interrupt. It would be a lot easier if you could just come here.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
So yeah, one of the great things about having such a great Python community here is there's a number of great companies to work for, like Continuum, like UStudio, that kind of stuff. So UStudio is we're trying to build out a enterprise video management platform. We've been here since, we started in 2010. We're an API focused company, so we build out web UIs for different aspects of video management, but we focus on API integrations and test-driven development, all that kind of stuff. We use a Tornado-based stack, for those of you who are familiar with the Tornado web framework. But we also use any number of other Python projects like Fabric, like Celery, like anyway, probably all the ones you know from the web world we use. And we do video processing, again, integrations with any number of different platforms. The idea being an enterprise organization is able to push video out to every organization inside the enterprise. So sales, marketing, all that kind of stuff. One video goes out to everybody. So we're looking for people who are interested in all aspects of web development. Python aspects, JavaScript aspects, all that stuff. So if you're interested in video, if you're interested in API development, web development in Python, come see me.
I'll do a really quick, tiny spiel about my company. We are Continuum Analytics. We work on a variety of problems related to high-performance computing in Python, and data analysis, data visualization, data exploration, data munging, all of that stuff. So we have a distribution of Python called Anaconda. It's completely free. It also includes a package manager for binaries that handles R, Python, Node.js, you name it. We have a product, Anaconda Server, which allows people to internally then manage their repos, mirror PyPy, mirror CRAN, mirror CPAN, all these various things. We also have a Python analytics in the browser platform called Wakari, which is a great way. You can go to the cloud service, which allows you to just play with, start up a Linux VZ and play with IPython Notebook. You have a full Linux sandbox. If you want to run this internally behind your firewall on your own data, the Wakari Enterprise product supports teams and projects, all these various things really well. So these are two products. Right now we're hiring for some consultants to work with us in New York, C++, Python. It would be fantastic to have both those solid skills. We're also looking for developer on our Python compiler. So a Python compiler that targets GPUs and whatnot. So we're looking for kind of a sharp GPU person. And we're also looking for someone to help us on marketing. Basically, all the other all of the WhatsApps and I don't even know what are the things now. What are the hip things now? Snapchat. What are the other things? All the stuff that was talked about the last few days that I'm not part of. All those people have really great marketing, and so we want more of that. So if you are someone like that, we want to do work that actually matters. Then please come to talk to us. We have a lot of great clients, as you can see from our client page here. We have a lot of great clients that work with us, and a lot of other people coming in every day to do data analytics and visualization with Python. So, reach out to me or go to our page and contact us there. And with that, any questions, comments? There's no one here to speak for the Capital Factory, but they're great. They give us space every month, so let's give them a round of applause as well. Okay, and seriously, before everyone gets tired of me up here talking, I will do my quick talk, which is, it is about insane / really awesome things to do with C types. How many people here have used C types? Oh, good. Probably know more about it than I do. But how many people have really programmed the Python C API? Know what that looks like? A few people, all right? Good. So this is what, so how many of you know what the non-local keyword is in Python 3? Python 3 people. Okay, so everyone knows that in Python you can do this, right?
Bigger font, please.
Yes, of course, of course. This is just to make people say that. Okay, so if I say def, really big. If I say def foo of a comma b, that's really big. Wow. And I say c equals a plus b, def bar takes x, right? Returns c plus x. Okay. Now, what I can do here, if at the top I have some that's probably not good. Blah equals 42. Down here I can say global blah equals c plus equals c plus x, right? So what this does, does everyone see all this going on? Global variable blah at module scope. I have a function foo. Then inside I have a closure bar. Oh yeah, I guess to make it a real closure, I have to here return bar, right? So, so what happens here is that bar can modify the blah outside by using the global keyword. Right? If I don't use global, I can do this, but what will happen is blah will be a new variable in the bar local namespace. Nothing will happen. Basically, like that blah won't get affected, and then I'll just return C plus X. Does everyone see what's going on there? Any questions?
You had to say global blah because you're accessing the blobs outside.
Yes. If you disassemble the bytecode for that, it'll show, instead of load fast, it'll show load global. It's actually getting, not just load global, but it'll actually basically treat that as a global variable. Otherwise, in the local namespace, this will mask a blah out there. Okay, so then I'm going to return bar, and here I say f equals foo 1 and 2. The challenge is, what if I want to modify C out here, inside here? I want to say C plus equals X.
You say foo C?
C plus equals X. If I do that, right, that doesn't work in Python 2. There's no way to sort of say like one level up, right? Because Python has function scope, and then it has global scope. All right, and so there's no way to say like non-local, right, or outer, which is one of the other things, like outer C. That's not valid. So what happens is in Python 3, there is Python 3 non-local. It lets you, Stack Overflow is higher than the Python documentation.
It frequently is more precise.
So, yeah, no, it's true. So the non-local statement, well, that's helpful. Anyway, the point is non-local lets you, what?
Check out Stack.
Gosh darn it. You guys, this is part of the problem.
There you go.
Okay, well, maybe that was a clear exposition. So, as I was saying, that, okay? So you can say non-local X, and this will now set the outer scopes X to 2. Right? You cannot do that in Python 2. Okay? The reason you cannot do that in Python 2 is because the way that this is, well, there's not any particular reason, but in Python 2, that's a carrot they're withholding from us, okay? But.
That would change Python 2.
No, you just add a new keyword. I mean, yield changed Python 2. Just added it. So, but I see your point. Yeah, let me do everything.
I have a question.
Yes.
In your previous example, you said you didn't need the non-local business until you tried to assign something to C.
In my previous example, in my Sublime text, I didn't need the non-local what?
So do you need, you're referencing C there, right?
Yes.
You can do that, but you can't assign it to
You can't assign. The same thing with global. You can reference global. I'm sorry, same thing with blah, right? You can reference blah, but you can't assign to it unless you say that. It's not mutated. In Python 2, there's no way to mutate that directly. And in fact, if we do this, right? Can you guys see that at all? Okay. If I go and do IPython, I'm going to say def foo. I'm going to basically do this, right? X, Y, def bar. Well, C equals, I don't know. We'll just leave it at this, right? We'll just say def bar A, B, return A plus B plus X plus Y, return bar. So I say f equals foo of 1, 2. Then I say f of 3, 4. That should give me 10, right? If we look at what this object is a function main.bar, and underneath the function there is this func closure object. Does everyone see that? Sorry, let me. Func closure. Those are the variables that are closed over. Okay. Right. That was my function here. X. The first one is x, and the second one is y. In fact, if I look at f.funcClosure. That's the cell, all right, and the cell has is it dot value or something? Whatever. Anyway. The point is, it is that first one, and I don't want to waste everyone's time too much, but cell objects are immutable. I cannot assign to it. This is in any case, this is a tuple of 2 cells, right? It's a tuple. It's immutable. So the reason I asked about C types is because the Python interpreter, not PyPy, but CPython itself, has a really great C API. So this is the documentation, not Stack Overflow. This is the documentation for the Python C API. Yeah, it's a particular Sphinx theme, right, for Stack Overflow. And down here, you look at other objects, and you see, oh, look, there's cell objects. And you look at cell, okay, cell new, cell get, cell set. Oh, that's interesting, right? So what if we do this, right? So we're going to go here. I'm going to say, all right, from ctypes import star. And ctypes has a submodule called Python API, which is a complete wrapping of the Python C API. So I do Python C API dot, what is that thing called? Py cell set. Okay, I call it cell set. Now this is a function. Okay, this is now a handle for it's a function pointer at the C level. I'm going to say cell set. Now what you have to do, unfortunately, oh yeah, so you can do this. You can do cell set. Let's see, what is the API? The cell itself and the value. Okay, so f.func closure 0. Let's set it to 99. Right? All right, it's like, okay, that doesn't work. So, well, these expect PyObject star, right? Let's try, maybe we want to send the IDs in or something like this. So let's try that. We get a seg vault. So that's what happens when you play with the C types. This is just to let you guys know, I was wearing gloves and I burned my finger on this. So now if we def foo again, and then f equals foo of 1, 2. Let's try this again. From C types import star. What you have to do is cell set equals equals Python API dot pycell set. We have to set the arg types. I have to tell it, these are going to be Py objects that you're going to get. It's going to be 2 Python objects coming in, okay? And so now we can do cell set f.func closure 0, 99. Bam. Now let's call foo, so we said f, right? F of 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, yeah, sure. So you see, all right, just to prove that this is really Uber. All right, so that's pretty cool, right? I poked inside the cell and I changed its value. Now you're thinking, well, okay, that's pretty cool. So if we can change cells, which are supposed to be sort of immutable.
Actually, that's pretty sick, but
So on Twitter, I was like, there's some conversation on Python 3, and I was saying to Dave Beasley, like, well, since I discovered that I can just call, pycell set through C types, I have stopped lusting after non-local Python 3. He said, you're in timeout. That's what he told me.
All I can tell you is this way lies madness. I remember the first time I wrote an assembly program and realized that I could have self-modifying code and how powerful that was.
But Python's always self-modifying, right? I mean, that's what eval is all about, right? But no, this is cool because this lets you, again, it's about taking the red pill. In Python, you can always just take the red pill because there's a C layer underneath. Before I take up all the time, I want to go one layer lower and say, okay, well, one thing more interesting. And it's like, okay, we modify cells. That's interesting. What about tuples, right? Because if you look at the, if you look at this, now you're like, okay, tuple objects. Okay, tuple objects are immutable. We all know they're immutable, right? Well, so are cells. So. But actually, PyTuple has if it was immutable, they wouldn't have implemented set item, okay? No. So,
not at all true. That's a C API. Everything is mutable in C.
1, 2, 3, that is true. Now, everything's mutable in C. That should be a bumper sticker. So we'll say tuple set equals, what is tuple set going to be? It's Python API dot PyTuple set item. Okay? Now we know we have to do something like, now it's a PyObject star, a size t, which we can maybe assume is a long in a 64-bit system, and then another PyObject. So we're going to say it's arg types is PyObject. So in C types, in the C types module, all of the C types essentially are C underscore and then whatever. So that gives us a long. That tells it that the function signature for this is long. So yes.
Do an ID on X before. I want to see if it.
Okay, sure. Okay, and then now we do tuple set on X. Let's make the first item 99. No good. Okay, we can't do this. So let's go and see what's going on here. Wait, hold on. Profiles, white background again. Make it big. Really big. So source to, so this is tuple object.c line 142, right? So objects mvim tuple object.c plus 142. So it's that line, that's the offending line. So let's look at what it's doing here. Set item is first going to check that it's a tuple, makes sense. Then it's going to check that the ref count is 1. And if it's not 1, it's going to give us this thing. Now the problem, so the problem is that we should have passed this check, right? So if we import sys.get ref count on x is 2. Now that's 2, but get ref count itself gets an extra copy. So get ref count always returns you one more than the actual ref count. So ref count of x should have been 1. So this is just being obstinate, right? So what do you do when things are obstinate? We comment them out. All right. And so I happen to have. I recommend everyone have a source checkout of Python and be able to do something like that, and then be able to do that. Now this is my build. You can see right here, right? 8:18. I'm definitely running over on time. But we'll say from C types, import start. We're basically going to do everything that we did in the other guy, right? So hist here. Tup set. Yeah, okay. So tup set equals Python API dot pytuple set item. Tup set. I'll spare you guys this typing. Okay, so we'll do this. Everyone is just filled with suspense, I'm sure. Right, like, what is it going to segfault again? Is that what this is going to? Is that how it's going to disappoint us today? So ID of x, right, per the request back there. So that's interesting. Okay, well anyway, so we're going to do tup set x item 1 to 99. Bam, and it's the same x. Right? Print x, sure. Now that's where it blows up, right? No. So now, two more interesting things real quick. If we say y equals 10, 20, 30, then we can do d equals, we'll do a dict, right? X maps to hello, y maps to world, and then we're going to say x tup set x 0, 10. Well, let's actually print d, right? Okay, and then tup set x 1, 20, tup set x 230. Oh yeah, what does that look like now? So now we have a dictionary with two tuples that map, the same tuple mapping to different values. What happens when we look this up with a third one? Just, I don't know, it takes one of them. I guess it took, which one was world? It took y, right? So the other thing you can do... Is it caching the hash value of x? I think so. I mean, the IDs of x and y are different, right? ID x, ID y. Their values happen to be the same.
Hash of x.
Yeah, hash x, hash y. Oh, yes, right. Good point. The other thing you can do, though, now you can do tuple set. So we all know we can do a list, right? I'll say L equals 1, 2, 3, 4. We know that in Python we can do nested lists, self-referential ones, right? So L.append L. And Python does sensible things when we have a recursive structure like this, right? We can even do a deep copy of it, and it'll deep copy the recursiveness. What happens now? We have tuple set, right? So here's x. What if we do tup set x? We'll take the last element, and we'll set it to x. All right, so there you go. All right, well that's my lightning talk, everyone. So thank you. Most applause I've ever gotten for a segfault. So, okay. So if everyone wants to get more drinks or whatever while we get set up here, another refresh on the chicken. There's still chicken left. I see brown crusted stuff right there. Yeah.
It's pretty shit. I understood about 30%.
Wow, I really want to
Oh, that's nice.
Okay,
I guess I'm sorry I have to go now. That was some pretty ridiculous shit. That dude, like, this is retarded. Who is that shit?
I used to fry.
This is interesting. I've never seen this before. So when I go into presenter mode, it fails. So what I can just leave it in this mode.
Or just, you can't go to, without going to presenter, can't you go to,
I can just go to full screen mode.
exactly.
Get rid of this.
Yeah, I guess at least that. So it won't start from slideshow play?
I can try that. It failed on me twice.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
No, I tried to make it as very.
It worked.
Well, I
Okay,
have to be
great.
next to you.
Okay, great. And actually, look at that. It's in presenter mode over here for you as well.
Do you, okay, yeah, where do you?
Your choice is bad, Sierra Nevada.
Can I have your attention, please? Okay, so I actually did a presentation, I think it was the end of 2012, where I talked about negotiations. So I talked about negotiation. I mean, in terms of the biggest negotiations of your life, the three that I think are the biggest are, number 3 is buying or selling a car. Number 2 is buying or selling a house. And number 1 is salary negotiations. So Lisa and I have worked together for
19 years.
20 years almost. And she's HR
I was 4
expert.
when we met.
So I invited her along to help me in my presentation, and she ended up taking over.
Control issues.
Because she's
more of that.
Really good. So this time around, I'm going to shut up at this point and let her present and take it from here.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Lisa.
All right. Get a plastic card and start. I'm done. I'm just going to leave on that note. So how many of you said that you've been working with Python 3? Okay, you guys are a bunch of braggarts. You probably already have a job. Go get another piece of chicken. You can ignore me. I'm going to talk to you guys about preparing for the opportunities to get a job. That's presenting yourself, basically, for the job you want. I'm incredibly spoiled. I've been very, very fortunate and worked very hard for the last 20 years. So I typically have an admin pushing this button for me. And so I've now hired Danny, apparently. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about is the resume. That's your presentation. That's who you are. You are yourself on paper to 99% of the people who you're going to meet in your job hunt. This is how they meet you. So we'll talk a little bit about marketing yourself. It is about your first impression, again, to most of the companies that you're going to get into. The most important thing is getting the information out there that you want to share about yourself. What are your skills? What are your qualifications? A lot of people have the same thing to say. One of the things that's going to set you apart is making sure that your resume is clean and clear, that folks like me can understand what you're saying and want to read it. Clean and clear also has to do with presenting yourself online. There are a lot more and more now, even smaller companies have applicant tracking systems, and you can go on their World Wide Web and apply to this position. You go in and you can submit your resume through their application system online. If you've got a whole bunch of formatting and colors and changes and sections separated out, that's not going to format properly. I'm not going to be able to see your resume at all. It's going to look like a jumbled mess. So know that the cleaner and clearer your resume is, the better it translates when you're submitting it too. The formatting and stuff, it's really a lot of fluff. We don't need it. The blue lines between the summary and the experience and the educate, we don't need that. It's not important. It's not going to market you any better. You can cater your resume to the job. How many of you have just one single resume every single time that you send out your resume? That's the resume you send out. By the way, I'm one of them. Okay, yeah, most of us are.
Does that count?
Huh?
2 resumes, does that count?
2 resumes counts, it's more than one, certainly. Yeah, absolutely. And having those resumes, a lot of you are probably somewhat flexible to the type of job you're getting. Hey, I can program in this language. I've also got management skills. I've also got these capabilities. You might want to have resumes that separate those skills out, or at least be able to cater your resume to the job that you're applying to. Using the summary wisely, that's one of those opportunities, right? I'm seeking this kind of job in this kind of company. You can change those words for that kind of job and the kind of company that you're applying to, right? That makes you stand out for us. Hey, he's looking for exactly what I have. He just rose to the top of the list for me. So use that summary. A lot of people find their summary kind of paragraphs or phrases. It's a little old school. I'm seeking a job where I can grow my skills and contribute to the company. How many of you are looking for a job where you cannot grow your skills?
Well, I like to stay static.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Those of you who are showing up to events like this are usually pretty much, let me just loiter in this job and not grow at all. How many of you would like to actually, would prefer not to contribute to the company that you're working for? It's a little, you're really asking a bit much for me out of this. Right, so guess what? I already know you want to grow your skills and contribute to the company you're working for. You don't have to write that on your resume. Your summary should be about what you can contribute to this specific company for this specific job, or in general, what the nutshell is of the rest of the 2 pages I'm going to read. Part of marketing yourself is using your network. LinkedIn, are all of you on LinkedIn? Who's not on LinkedIn? Because I'm going to walk over and smack you on the hand. You're all grown ups, you should all be on LinkedIn at this point. Go ahead and get on LinkedIn. It is the easiest way for me to find you. Your LinkedIn profile should look almost identical to your resume. That's why I don't have to bug you now for your resume. I don't have to guess what your LinkedIn profile or what your.
What about our Stack Overflow profile, which is where I really maintain stuff?
Yeah, that is fantastic. Have I talked about LinkedIn yet? You should. You should also do it there.
Well, I do it there. It's just I actually have a different presentation on LinkedIn than I have on Stack Overflow.
I mean, that's great as long as you're presenting yourself in the way that you want the person who's going to look on LinkedIn for you. By the way, I'm the person who's going to look on LinkedIn. It says HR people. A couple of you have talked about looking, hiring right now. Are you guys using LinkedIn and other resources, social networking for staffing? Of course you are, because everyone is now, right?
We also use Stack Overflow.
Which is perfect. So all of those should read like your resume, or however you want to present yourself on those. But understand there are people like me looking for people like you.
So Lisa is not your typical HR person. I mean, she's at a Python meetup, for Christ's sake, and she knows what Stack Overflow is. But the prototypical recruiter is not technical, and they'll probably know what Stack Overflow is because they'll have heard it in conference rooms with managers talking about it often enough. But you need to treat the non-Lisa HR recruiter as a screen. You have to get past her to get to the hiring manager. And the way you get past her is in LinkedIn. Once you get past her, then you can worry about Stack Overflow. But a lot of these frontline recruiters, they're just checking off boxes. And am I right?
That's absolutely fair to say. Absolutely. And a lot of the recruiters, and I'm internal to a company and have been doing this for 20 years, so I know where to find you guys. I need to be able to find you. You need to know what I'm looking for. Yeah, I am looking on the various resources out there, but Danny's exactly right. Not everyone is. So use that LinkedIn and the other social networking, social media outlets should read as close to your resume and really speak to who you are. If you say I'm a Python programmer, guess what? I've got a room full of them here to look through. Tell me a little bit more about yourself and give us that opportunity socially through your networks. All right. Mark,
oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's perfect.
You said all right. I thought you meant.
No, I did mean that.
Oh.
There you go. It's back. It's back.
It's back. Okay.
It hates page 2.
There you go. Okay.
All right. Things that are important to us. Be honest about your skill level. If you put on your resume that you're a Python 3 expert, and then I start interviewing you and realize you used it, you heard about it in a Python meetup once, suddenly every single thing you've said on your resume might be a lie to me. Right? So be honest about it. Understand yourselves. That's a key to, well, to a lot of factors in life, frankly. But it's very important on your resume that you know where your skill level is. You don't say that I've accomplished this. Really, you've written about this much, right? So be honest on your resume. One of my favorite tips. There are a lot of people who are scared to go over one page in a resume. Guess what it looks like on the World Wide Web? 6 pages, it looks like 1 page to me. I'm just scrolling. And that's how most resumes are read now. It's all online. It is okay to go to 2 pages. If I can't get enough information about what you've done in your past on 1 page, you have to go to 2. If you've just gotten out of school, you probably don't need to go to 2. It's probably overkill. If you've got 15 years of experience, you probably need to go to 3 or 4 pages. You've done a lot of stuff that we want to know about. This is how you're marketing yourself. So please don't be afraid to go beyond 1 page or 2 pages even on your resume. Getting real into the details of your resume. Describe the company. A lot of people have worked for startup companies. In my case, as my friends and family, she's a startup skipper. Danny and I have been very fortunate to work in a number of startup companies, and some of them have skyrocketed and some of them have circled the drains. The ones that have circled the drain, you don't know about. You don't know what I'm talking about. Give even just a half a sentence of what that company is and what it does. That is going to be applicable to how I see you and what you've done within that company. I would say the same thing goes for the role within. Make sure that you're giving me a nutshell of the role before you start talking about all of the things that you've done within that role. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. It's a startup semiconductor design, audio design company. It's a history. Just that nutshell of what the company is, that nutshell of what your role is. Most important, include successes. I definitely want to see in 3 to 10 bullet points what your general function of your role was with this company, but include successes. Some of the successes will be successful launches of a product, completion of that'll be fun. Completion of a project within your team, etc. So include those successes. I got this done in this amount of time. Our team came in under budget for this kind of a project, for the successes. And for the love of God, spell check your resume. Are you kidding me that I have to say, there is not spelled like that. Yeah, please, 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 no errors on your resume. You know what folks like I do? We go and circle them and then we walk around the company going, are you kidding me that he did that? So yeah, you've got to clean up your resume. Have 2 or 3 or 5 people review your resume before you submit it.
How common is it to get a resume that's got grammatical and spelling errors on it?
1 out of 3.
How common is it that you still hire them?
50-50.
What's your hiring rate giving no errors?
Full Bayesian.
The other 50%.
Well, as a former hiring manager, I'm looking at a pile of resumes and I have to whittle it down. I've got 40 resumes and I have to pick 5 to phone screen. Sometimes it's not fair. Sometimes I'm going to pick on just irrational things. And if you can't type a sentence, you can't get your resume right, for crying out loud, your resume's got to be right. If you can't get somebody to proofread it for you and fix these problems, I don't want to talk to you. And you make the no pile.
I don't want your job.
You know what? I've had this conversation as a hiring manager. I have had this conversation as a hiring manager, and I am perfectly all right with that.
It turns out that's a mutual agreement.
Tell them what not to do.
Don't make errors on your resume.
On the other hand,
anything else?
Yeah, let's keep going. So,
on the other hand, if you're circulating my resume through the whole company, that's what I want, right?
Not for that reason. Yeah, you don't want them left.
You want 100 people saying this is for sure the guy we don't want to hire? Probably not. It's not, mocking is not internal marketing. So, this is a pretty key one, you guys, and the no errors, it really is. If you're going to argue with me on that, okay. This is what I expect your work product to look like, too. You think you're going to be on the top of my list? You've had your whole life to write that resume. What if I give you a month to do a project? How many mistakes are you going to make on that? And that's what we see. Follow up on your resume submittal, and most importantly, know the line between follow up and stalking. Follow up is 1 email, the day after, the day of, or the day after you send it, and it's potentially a phone call if you can get that phone number, or another email about a week later. If you've had to ask them 10 times if they've seen your resume, let's move on. Let's find another company. Speaking of moving on. Preparing for the interview, and when I say interview, I mean either phone screen or in-person interview. We'll talk a little bit about both. Do your research. Know what the company is doing that you're going to be talking with. And I mean going beyond the company website. So yeah, I looked at you guys online and I see that you do this. Okay, that's great. What else do you know about us? Understand as much information as you can get about that company. There are news feeds, there are, I mean, for God's sake, we've got Google. Google the company and see what else you can find about them. Find out about them. What of those perspectives or what of those concepts that you're finding out about the company, what particularly interests you? Be prepared with why you're interested in this company. Also be prepared with why you're interested in this role and why do you think that you're applicable to this role. So know the role, understand the position, understand the company. You're going to be more prepared. You're going to sound more interested and engaged at the onset of talking to folks like me. And the best way to do your research, or one of the best ways to do some research on the company, is find out who you might know in the company, who's worked there in the past that you might know, who's third degree away from you and who has potentially worked at that company and can give you some insight. What's important to that company? Is it the culture? Is it the God almighty dollar? And how can you contribute to that, or how do you fit in with that? Know your resume. What drives me crazy is I'm on a phone screen and I'm looking at the human being's resume and they said, you know, back in '98 when I worked at Motorola, you didn't work at Motorola until 2000, right? One of you is lying on a piece of paper or you don't know what your own resume is. Know your resume, understand what's on that resume. I will often pull up, hey, I see here that you did this, tell me more about it. You better know that you did that and that that's what's on your resume. So really understand and know your resume very well. Be prepared to speak to it. In the interview, know your strengths. What do you want to speak most about? What do you want to tell them about? Hey, I've got this in my back pocket. I've got this capability that you guys need that's going to be important to the role that you're staffing for right now. Know those strengths. Know the successes behind those strengths. I highlighted and weaknesses. It's one of my favorite questions. We've talked a lot about your strengths. Tell me more about what areas you want to grow in. What do you think that you're not good at and where would you like to grow? Please don't do one of the things that a lot of recruiters will almost teach you to do. Take a strength and turn it into a weakness. Oh, I just worked too hard.
Wait, what's wrong with that? Why wouldn't you hire someone that's...
I already know that about you. Because you haven't answered my question. What I'm looking for is where do you want to grow? What is your, what do you
Why would you
consider?
want to like weaken your hand by doing that? Because you're revealing a weakness to somebody that's looking to hire you. Why would you do that?
What you're really revealing to me is that you know yourself, you understand yourself, and you're still looking to grow. Here's an area you're growing in. What I'm also going to say is know your weaknesses, and then most importantly, know what you're doing to prepare to grow in that area.
What's a good answer to that?
So I'm in HR, it's a little tougher for me.
Be honest.
Yeah, absolutely be
I mean,
honest.
if I was in that situation, someone were to ask me that question, I mean, what would I say? You know, I overanalyze. I go too deep on certain things, and I end off on tangents.
You can't strictly just say be honest. There are certainly weaknesses.
Yeah,
you could
I mean,
say,
no,
like,
so I'm
a crippling alcoholic.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I've historically worked in marketing too long, so I do some of the stuff that I'm thinking. But you know, if you study social engineering or you study persuasion, a lot of what it takes to get the other person to do what you want them to do is by coming across as a real person, right? With, you know, white and black, you know, with dark and light, with and you know, you can get an awful distance with people just by showing a little bit of weakness. They'll open up and they'll start telling you more, and
I think the interesting thing about the subtext from some of the questions is this perception that talking about a personal growth area is somehow weakening your hand, right? It's sort of like asking you, okay, what suit are you short in or something, right? That's not, I mean, you're showing that you know what cards you have, right? That's the strength that she's talking about. That you know yourself.
That's
right?
really well put.
And that's the fundamental.
Because you're not going to be good at everything. I mean,
That's
no one
exactly
is good
right.
at
And
everything.
if you suggest you're good
Yeah.
at everything and there's nothing for you to learn.
No, so the most
I've
off-putting
just heard
thing.
the most arrogant person in the room, right?
Exactly. The most
And
off-putting
no
thing someone can say is,
interest
"I've
in
never
it.
met a problem I haven't been able to solve." It's like, well, you've clearly not been around the block very much.
That's right.
Because I've met smart people from here to the moon, and they all run into problems they can't solve. Tell me what happens when you run into problems you can't
One
solve.
of the biggest or common things amongst really smart people that I've worked with is they're not shy about saying, I don't know.
So let me amplify that. I was in an interview, people asked me if I knew C++, and I basically said, I'm not a C++ guy, I'm not gonna be a C++ guy. And that ended up being the thing that ruled me out. And that was a good thing.
Right.
For you and for them.
For
yes.
both of us.
Right.
So knowing what
Right.
you want to do, as well as know that it's a weakness, that I don't want to know about template language. Okay, I don't want to grow in that area is an important thing. You want to rule out bad interviews quickly because your time's valuable too.
And playing on that, if C++ was his weakness, and he said, but I'm taking a class in it right now, or but I've started going to this group and I'm learning this right now. Now I'm like, okay, this guy wants to continue to learn. He wants to continue to grow. He's a smart enough guy to keep himself motivated to learn. Yes.
I think I see a fundamental difference though between talking about weaknesses and talking about growth areas.
Okay. You can call it whatever you want.
I
It's
really,
the euphemism.
yeah, I'm just saying I
Opportunities for
don't like,
growth.
and in fact, oftentimes we'll just punt, if a recruiter says, what are your weaknesses? That, to my mind, is a big turn off.
Be careful with that because the wording that they choose is not necessarily,
But, yeah.
that's not what they're going for, right? They've already got their job.
Yeah, because I'm more than happy to say, I mean, I went and interviewed for a whole pile of jobs, last fall. And I was like, I said, well, I'm just learning Python. I mean, that was something that I was very for, but I don't want to say, oh, my big weakness is I don't know Python very well. I want to come across as, oh, gee, I'm a person who doesn't know Python, but I'm really working hard to learn it, and I'm curious.
That's your answer.
And stuff
Right
like
there.
that. But when you start out and you get a question like, what's your weakness? To my mind, I can't answer that without starting out at a disadvantage mentally. I don't know.
So what I'm
Because it sounds like
asking you to
his weakness is sort of, that term is sort of, it evokes sort of like a flaw, right?
Negativity.
How are you a broken person? Tell us, right? It's sort of like to your point
So
about,
what we're asking you
alcohol.
to do is kind of rise above that and think of it as what are my growth opportunities. When they use that word, think of it, I mean, it's just a different way of saying a similar thing. What they're getting at is what are your opportunities for growth? Where can you grow still? What do you not have that either this job requires that you feel will be an advantage to your skills? And typically, and what I'm suggesting here, and when I put this up here, is I'm suggesting you talk about, here's what I don't know, and here's what I'm doing to change it, right? It's what books are you reading, what classes are you taking, what groups are you meeting up with to learn more about a skill that you might not be the strongest person in. Yeah.
Well, so you said before you're always looking for a reason to eliminate a resume, right?
Not always,
No,
but
I mean, when you're trying to do
definitely not always.
And if you've got the luxury of 20 resumes for one job, you've got to filter it somehow. You can't get on the phone with 20 people.
Right, I
Well, you
believe
can,
you
but I
guys when
won't.
you say, you know what, I want an honest answer, it helps me to process it. Not all people in HR are necessarily that fair, if you will. And I feel like when you're saying, okay, always answer very honestly, like that may work well for certain people like yourselves, but other times, I mean, I've certainly, done interviews where it's like, oh, okay, this person just revealed to me that they're really lazy. I don't think we want to hire them. Like,
Well, let's be conscious of it, and I think that's why I'm saying go into it knowing your strengths and weaknesses, so you don't get tripped up and say, "Well, I'm particularly lazy." Right? This whole 40-hour week thing is really a bit much for me. Yeah, my weakness is I'm a raging alcoholic. Let's not choose that one. Let's put that one on the bottom of your list. We're going to look at our top 3. A, that pertain to the job, B, that pertain to your future and your career. And that's what I mean. Prepare. This is preparing for the interview. Let's not prepare with your worst flaws, personal flaws. Let's prepare with things that will be applicable to the role, applicable to your career growth.
I mean,
So I mean, what you're saying is
Nope, still no on the alcohol.
you know people are going to ask you for your strengths and weaknesses.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe you don't like the question, but you should pick some strategic answer to it. You know.
Will you please come to all of the presentations? I'll keep finding you right now, they are all issues. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, and I wish I'd said it that way. You know that it's going to be asked, prepare your answer. Prepare your answer logically and reasonably. The thing where you take a strength and try and turn it into a weakness, you've basically just not answered my question. So that's one I just don't get for you. Okay, there was a waste of one question for us.
So is it fair to just say, hey, I don't want to answer that question?
It's
Yes.
fair. It's fair when I'm concerned about what's under it. Why? What is the answer? Right? That's why I'm suggesting you prepare.
You know, it all comes down to who's the best of the candidates I have in front of me. Which one am I going to pick? And you can be, I mean, if you were Guido van Rossum, you know, the inventor of Python, and you answer the question that way, you'd probably still get the job. But you know, if you're on the bubble, then that might be the difference. I don't know.
And frankly, there's probably a company or two that won't even hire Guido who doesn't know what his weaknesses are.
You're saying
it's that level of kind of arrogance, let's face it, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
If I ask, if I pose a question, what are the weaknesses of the team or the company, would I get an honest answer?
Oh, I probably not from everyone, but I am grossly honest with that question. I have the luxury of getting to say that once a company becomes a very level, sustaining kind of company, they've got their act completely together, I'm bored and I'm out. So every company I've ever worked with has flaws, right? We can attest to that, certainly, huh, Danny?
There are no companies without flaws.
That's exactly right. So if they choose not to answer that, you get to gauge as an interviewee, you get to gauge, is that really the kind of company I want to be with? Right? So yes, an interview is always a two-sided interview. So it is a perfectly legitimate question.
Let me amplify that.
Yeah.
If I hire you into a strange situation, a broken situation, and I lie to you, or I actually don't even proactively make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, will you stick around?
No.
I'm wasting my time. I'll spend 3 months getting you up to speed, and then you'll say, that little bastard lied to me. He told me that everything was hunky-dory, everything was great, and it's not. And you're going to bail on me, and then I've got to start over again. I've lost 3 months.
I appreciate talking about the various companies I've worked with. I appreciate having the opportunity to talk about their flaws. I love that question. You guys are the folks, the people who we hire in are the folks that'll help us fix those things, right? Whether it's the culture or the tools we're rolling out or the timing or our project management or whatever the case is. You know, we've got some flaws here. Come in and help us fix it. And again, if they're not flaws you can live with, then you should be interviewing the company.
So as a candidate, one of the ways you catch lies is by asking multiple people the same thing. And if the answers are consistent, good. But if you get wildly different answers from the HR person than from the the frontline engineer, that's probably okay. But because the HR person might not really be in the trenches and understand what's going on. But if the manager is telling you one thing and the engineer is telling you something else, that's a red flag. Something to watch out for.
Is that a bad sign about the company?
Yeah, it is, because it doesn't happen very often.
Internally.
But it actually tends to happen more in big companies, because big companies can get away with politics a lot more. But the manager is blowing smoke up your ass, telling you how awesome it is, because he just wants to make his bonus for the end of the quarter, and the way he does that is by filling this slot. Okay. And he doesn't care whether or not you stick around, whether the project succeeds or fails. He just cares about getting that trip to Hawaii or that $10,000 bonus.
So Lisa made.
To answer the question, yes, it's a very valid question. I encourage everyone to ask. What are the hiccups in the company? What are the flaws there?
So you may get to this, but in some sense, what you both have just amplified is that we also have to come with questions, prepared questions for the company.
When she said do research, she means, and when I'm looking to join a company, I want to understand everything I can about the company. Not so that I'm better prepared for the interview, although it's a nice side effect, but I want to know what I'm getting into. So of course you do research. You got to figure out where you're going to be. Do I want this job?
Excellent segue to the next bullet. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Prepare appropriate questions. What's important to you? The flaws of the company should be important to everyone, right? You want to know what the issues are that you're walking into, right? What's important to you? What are the next steps, and what can you find out to prepare for them? Appropriate questions. Does anyone have any? What are some of the questions you guys ask on interviews?
What things are more important to your company than just making money?
Perfect. That's an excellent question. What are some of the key important factors to your company besides the almighty revenue? What are important? What's important to your company?
You want to know a really terrible one to ask? Especially on a small company. Who was the last person that left and why?
Great. Right.
See, everyone knows why that's a terrible question, right? It's terrible in the sense that it's just ruthlessly brutal, right? But it sort of also says we're cutting to the chase in the conversation. Like, I'm serious about this. I want to know, like.
And if you ask it sincerely, I'm serious about it. I'm not just trying to be the cutting, pardon me, but that cutting dick that's just trying to throw you, right? If you're sincere about it, if you really want to know why, that's a perfectly valid question. That's a great question. I'd appreciate if someone asked that.
But
Why did they leave? Why are people leaving?
You won't get an honest answer to that if you didn't answer the weakness, right? You're not going to get a good back and forth.
I'd probably quit caring about you by then. That's right. I mean, very valid.
They're looking for
He's
other
right.
opportunities. Right.
So the follow-up question is, can I talk to you?
Well, no,
You don't have to ask.
Guess what? It's free world.
Don't even ask.
That's right.
You don't need my permission to go and call somebody.
Here's what, with that in mind.
You just leave it hanging there, and the implication is you are going to call them. So I better not lie to you about why they left.
Right.
You have to get the contact information somewhere.
There's that. We'll catch 22. With that in mind,
Not hard.
I will encourage folks. What's your new database?
It's a smaller world.
It is. It's true. With that in mind, please beware of the negativity that you might see online. Everyone know Glassdoor? Okay. Glassdoor is primarily set up for people to complain. It's one of my favorite lines. My fifth wife was a bitch too. After the five, isn't it? Maybe. Yeah. Right. So beware of that. Know that when you're going on Glassdoor or other wine sites, that's what you're looking for. And it's fair and valid. There's information there, right? It could be what you're looking for are trends in the complaints or the whining, right? Hey, I've been reading online a lot and I see it kind of looks like you guys are paid pretty low. Have you adjusted your pay scale to meet market now? That's a fair question to me. Or I've seen online and it seems like one of the engineering bosses is a real tyrant. Is he still there? How do you guys work around that? What's his personality really like? I'm cool with that. I'll answer those questions, and those are valid. What that's telling me is you've done your research, you care. You haven't discounted us from it. You're smart enough to know that is just a wine site. And there's valid whining on it. But ask us to follow up on it. Ask us for our response to that. That's completely valid. All right. So prepare those appropriate questions. And then be sure to ask, no matter what step or phase you are in the interview process, ask for the next step. What is the next step? What should I expect? When should I expect to hear back from you? When should I follow up with you? And that's one that, you guys don't write anymore, you're open technologists, right? You should all write that down. You should all type that down. When should I follow up with you? I have to tell you an answer. Now I have to be able to respond to you when you follow up with me.
We're just assuming these foils are available.
Yeah, we can do that.
Them available. Okay. And by me, I mean, Danny can make them available. Practice. So this is the most ridiculous thing I'm going to say all day. It's probably not true. This is one of the more ridiculous things I'm going to say. It does not hurt to practice in a mirror. It does not hurt to borrow a friend and practice. The words coming out of your mouth, the words in your head, do not come out of your mouth the same way they're in your head. Say them out loud. No, it sounds silly. I promise I'm right. You're going to have to take my word on that one.
An excellent way to practice is to prepare a presentation for the Austin Python. I'm serious.
He's absolutely right. If you guys are too shy to stand up here amongst a group of your peers and your friends, you're going to have a harder time communicating and articulating your skills and your strengths and what you know. All they're asking you to do is spend 5 minutes up here saying a couple things that you know.
It's also a great item on your resume.
That's right. Got it all.
I used to be terrified of presenting.
You did.
And I just decided I was going to force myself to do it, and now it's easy.
It is. So yeah, seriously, full on in front of him, say the words out loud, whether it's to your dog or your best friend or your husband or wife or etc. Say it out loud.
Just go out into a crowd in front of South by Southwest and just start pitching your resume.
That's real hard.
Just do it.
Worship me.
Very good, very good.
Start in the shallow end of the pool and work your way up.
So catch 22, try to avoid sounding rehearsed. In that if you've over practiced the thing to say, you're gonna find that question that's what I wanna say. Be careful that you're answering the question that they're asking. And then.
Okay, Lisa, suppose I have one suit. The last time I wore it was at a wedding 4 years ago, and I'm really uncomfortable. Do I wear a suit or do I not?
What a perfect segue into our next bullet, Danny Mello.
I'm just reading this.
Prepare yourself. Rest up. Please don't come to my interview hungover.
Has that happened?
Oh God, yeah. We live in Austin, absolutely. People have shown up stoned off their ass. Hey, Technology Austin, Texas. My company tried to drug test once. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. That's not gonna work in our town. All right. Let me apologize before I say this, but I'm gonna say it. Iron your freaking clothes before you come to an interview. I don't care who you are. I get it that a lot of you that doesn't matter, and you're right. Monday through Friday when you have the job, it doesn't matter, and I'm never gonna even notice that your clothes aren't ironed. What I am gonna do is stop, and not even myself, Danny, and any other person hiring you, whether they realize it consciously or not, they're seeing your disheveled look, and they're missing what you're talking about. I don't want to believe that about myself, but it's true. I've accepted it. I know a lot of you don't. Those of you who interview people, it's probably very subconscious. Of course, I don't care what they're wearing, but subconsciously, it is affecting your interview. We're in Austin, Texas. You can wear shirts with cartoon bunnies on them. Not to an interview. It's distracting. Right? You guys have noticed my bunnies, right? You probably missed a couple of things I've said because of the ridiculous peeps all over my shirt. I did this on purpose so I could mock my bunnies. Prepare your clothes. Clean, ironed, not disheveled. I mean the same thing about your hair and makeup if you're a girl. I mean the same thing about your hair and makeup no matter who you are, but prepare your clothes. Look the part beyond the part. This is the one time to make the first impression, right? Have a notebook and pen. That can be electronic for those of you who do that. Ask if it's okay. Is it okay if I take notes while you're talking? First off, I can't stand when people don't, because there's no way you're gonna remember everything I've said. Look how much I talk. So have a notebook ready, or however you wanna take notes, and ask if it's okay if you do. 3 minutes. I guess without saying, right? You guys all get that. Just shove one in your pocket, that's all good. All right. So preparing. Look the part you want, right? That's, tuck in your shirt. It's an interview. Tuck in your shirt. Does that mean you have to wear ties? No, we're in Austin, Texas. But it does mean you need to look clean. Neutral clothes do better in interviews. Now I'm seeing you and your face, not your outfit. The phone screen, the dreaded phone screen. Understand that most of the time, the initial phone screen is handled by either an HR person or a peer to your role that you're interviewing for. And what they're looking for are the basics. Do you meet the compensation requirements? Are you within that range? Peers probably won't ask that. That's typically left to HR. Prepare your answer for that. Do you fit the location? Are you in Wyoming and I'm not going to reload you? Or are you in way South Austin and you have no interest in driving to the Arboretum, but the job's in the Arboretum? That's the kind of thing we're going to be looking for. Your interest level in the role. Why are you interested? Why did you apply to this role? What is it about the position that piqued your interest? It's that level of engagement, enthusiasm. That's going to go a long way, particularly in your initial interview. We're looking for any red flags. Red flags come in a lot of forms, typically in the red flag form, but they do come in a lot of forms. I can hear you chewing gum in the background of the phone screen. It might just be an annoyance to me. It might be that day it's irritating me. It can be a red flag. It can prevent you from going to the next step. General job match. This is where the skills piece comes in, right? They're going to ask you the handful of technical questions, especially for you guys. They're going to ask you the handful of technical questions. Do you fit the gist of this job role? Again, be prepared. If you haven't read the job description, you're going to be far less prepared than the person who's got the job description right in front of them. I can do this because of this, right? I've experienced doing that. Understand again that this is your first impression. How many first impressions have I done? I think I've said that 3 times in the slideshow.
How many different people are we making first impressions on?
That's exactly right. Very good. Who said that? Quite a person in the back. Very good. That's exactly right. Each of these things can be a first impression for some individual. Perfect. Thanks for making me say it. All right. The interviews. There are 3 things we're looking for in an interview. There are 3 things that everybody's looking for in an interview, whether they realize it or not, as the interviewer. We're looking for capability, and that's what everyone knows, right? You all know that that's what we're looking for in the interview. We're going to ask you all the technical skills, what you've done, what your past is, how long you've done such and such. We're looking for that capability. Can you do the job? See my second bullet? Can you continue to learn? The person who knows his weaknesses are capable of continuing to learn. The person who thinks he has no weaknesses is incapable of learning anything else. What are your strengths and skill gaps? We've talked that pretty well to death. We're also looking for your passion, your motivation. Why do you want this job? Why are you looking to leave the job you're in? What do you care about? What's important to you in a job? What gets you excited and what will keep you engaged in the role?
What if you just need a job? You have $100 in your account, it's going to 0.
Give me your answer.
Okay.
So we're going to keep repeating the same story. You're up against 300 to 200 other people.
You know, that's an excellent motivation for someone who, I mean, I hear that and I understand it. But if I'm the hiring manager, I need to look beyond that. And, you know, after you've got a little bit of money in the bank and you're not stuck anymore, are you going to bail on the first thing that comes along, or are you going to stick around? And, I mean, that's the next level question. I'll try and find out, try and figure out, is this something you're going to like? Is this something you're going to enjoy? Am I going to be able to keep you as part of the team?
Right. Why will you be engaged in this role, this company? So yeah, I just need a job. It's not going to get you very far. It's a valid answer, and it's probably the answer of a lot of people, truly, but why this one? Let's concentrate on why this one when you're answering that question. And then lastly, the cultural fit. What's your attitude? Your teamwork like? This might be a position that's completely independently run. We need to be sure that you're able to work in, you know, your own home office by yourself for 60 hours a week and actually accomplish something, versus a very heavy team environment. We need to know that you've got good communication skills, that you team well with other people, understand the culture. The culture of the company is always a great question to ask. Most people want to answer the question. As interviewers, we want to answer the question. Understand and know what's the best culture for you to succeed in. If you know you're not going to do well in a big giant company, don't go apply for the big giant companies. I talked about what's your attitude, and I can't remember what my next slide looks like until it flips over. But one of the things that I'm definitely going to talk to you guys about is the difference in the fine line between confidence and arrogance. Any hint of the arrogance can turn off any member of the interview team and eliminate you. I absolutely want everyone to be confident. Confident in your skills, confident in your capability to learn, confident in your knowledge of your strengths and your weaknesses.
Can I do a quick time check? So it's a little bit after 9. How are we doing? Do we have to be out of here?
I think they're preoccupied with Slash out there, so.
Is he out
there? Slash is out there?
I don't know if he's out there. He's been here all day up there.
Okay. You mean the guitarist guy?
That's exactly.
No, he's been
so not to derail.
No, some guys
We could check, but they've been running till 10 o'clock as opposed to 9 o'clock here during this week. We should check though.
We should just assume permission rather than ask for
That's exactly. Forgiveness, folks. Forgiveness.
Okay, so let's keep going.
We have a little bit of credit in our account in any case because of the snafu with the spaces. Okay. So I think we're okay to keep going.
Thanks.
Whether they need to stay.
Real quickly, when you get into the interview, okay, so I didn't. So I actually didn't continue on with the difference between confidence and arrogance. I was not blessed with children, but I always thought growing up, if I could instill one lesson, just one, you only get to instill one lesson in your child, that's the lesson I want to instill, the difference between confidence and arrogance. Understanding that key differentiator will go a long way, not just in interviewing, in your whole lives. Don't go in knowing you already had the job. You've just turned off everyone you're talking with. The I'm too good for this, then you are, and we don't want you. It's incredibly challenging for incredibly smart people. And I'm pretty sure about 99% of you are incredibly smart people. There's always one in the crowd, it might be me. So I don't know how to stress that more. I cannot stress that enough. Kindness, I think a few of you were talking about the idea of kindness. I was talking to someone about negotiating for their pay after they've gotten the first offer. How do you negotiate? Well, you damn well better have been nice to the people who are offering you that job beforehand, because they're not going to want to jump in and say, you know what, I think I can find you $5,000 more in the budget. The kindness goes a real long way, and that's the same story as, I don't know if you're like power to the people or
No,
if you've
so
got
I
a question.
have a question. So that doesn't like, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
So that doesn't like blow the entire thing when you're like, okay, we're gonna offer you, X amount, and would you like to take the job? Do you say, yes, I'd like to take the job, but after that, do you respond with, but will you offer me more? I mean, how do you approach that question without coming off as, hey, yeah, but I'm worth more than that? Or are you,
Sure.
I mean, like,
Let's
how
jump
do you
in
come
here
up
real
without
quickly
being...
and get to negotiation, and that's fair.
Yeah.
You already know the answer because I told you at the bar. But,
Yeah.
But it's a good question. So
I want to learn more about it.
So what he was asking is, how do you negotiate? They're giving you an offer. You're humbled by and grateful for this offer. You go back and ask for more. Ask for more. Hey, that $80,000, that's great. Thank you very much for this offer. I'm really grateful for it. I was really hoping that it was going to be closer to 85. Can you go back and talk to your folks? Be humble, be kind. It's really that easy.
Or you've got, well, I can't give you an answer just yet because I have another company that told me they're going to get me an offer by Friday. So can I get back to you on Monday?
Don't freaking lie about that.
No, don't lie
If you
about
don't have
it.
another offer, don't lie about it.
Because
Be
if
like,
I-
oh great, he's already employed, then I'll take number 2 after all. Yeah.
Because if I have to go back to them on Monday and they're like, well, what about your other offer? And I went away, I've suddenly gone from a position of power to a position of weakness. But if I'm highly confident that I've got another offer, I don't have to work to negotiate. I just, I'm sorry, Lisa, I'm going to have to turn you down.
And fair.
And
But
then
don't
she starts
play
from
it. But don't play it.
I learned this by accident. I mean, it was almost by accident once, where I was buying a piece of equipment that cost somewhere in the region of $400,000. And the one thing I did that was smart was I managed to keep 2 vendors at the table right to the end. So we picked one, and I told the guy we were saying no to that we had picked the other guy, and they're like, whoa. The price went from $400,000 to $250,000. I saved 150 grand. Now we ended up switching back, because really they were neck and neck. So we switched from A to B, then we switched from B to A, and then we switched from, but if you've got competing offers, you don't have to be a poker player. So you just look her in the eye and say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go with the other one.
I'm pretty sure that other one's going to be, or it's the same offer, but that company's a little more exciting. Well, then let me get you further engaged.
Wait. Depends on supply and demand.
It does.
It's how
So
the market
it is really hard.
But
you know what?
Not lying.
You can control, or you can shoot yourself in the foot. You can serially go, you've got a job today, you're going to interview because Lisa sweet talked you into applying at her company. She found you on LinkedIn, and next thing you know, she got you to come in, take a day off and come in. And next thing you know, you're entertaining an offer, and she just has to beat your current salary by enough to make it worth your while, and suddenly you're switching. But if you've decided, okay, you know what, I'm gonna interview, but I'm gonna interview with Peter's company as well. And you can line them up, make the dates match so that the offers tend to come in around about the same time. All of a sudden you've got way more leverage. Right. And you will make an extra 10 grand, 20 grand, no problem.
Okay.
Or you'll get more vacation, or you'll get a better growth opportunity.
That's not a guarantee, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, it's
No, absolutely not.
It's not a guarantee.
Absolutely. You've got to be prepared to accept their original offer or to walk away. Either of those options, right? They're not going to take away most of the time. I've never.
Yeah,
done it in
actually,
my
let me
20-year
respond
career.
to that though, because I started this, and I was trying to correct myself, and Peter called me on it. It's not always about the money; it's about the growth opportunities. It's not about
The job,
what altitude
what
you're at right now.
Experience, yeah.
It's about your rate of climb.
Okay.
Because it doesn't matter, especially at the beginning of your career. It doesn't matter so much how much money you're making the first year out of college. It's how much are you learning in that year to get to how much are you in the job that's going to. You're just going to love for the rest of your career, or are you someplace that's just driving you nuts immediately?
That actually raises a really good meta point, which is, Lisa, I'd like to ask you, how much of your advice is That's what we're saying.
I said, spoken like an engineer. A meta point. Who says that? I'm gonna.
How much of your advice would you tweak for someone who's just starting out versus someone who's 5 years in versus someone who's actually looking at maybe breaking any kind of executive level, like 10, 12, 15 years experience? How much of this differs a little bit? How much of it is simply just more nuanced?
That's exactly it. It's the same information and the same approach. It might be a little nuanced, might be a little varied. The guy straight out of college can negotiate just as, and should try to negotiate just as much as the person with 20 years of experience in his career. The person with the 20 years of experience probably is a little more valuable to that company and has a little bit more room, right? It's they're offering me 120, I want 140. They're offering me 45, I want 47, right? So, or the vacation's more important to that person, or the,
So people now out of college in the Bay Area are getting 120, 140.
In certain specialties.
Certain specialties, right.
You're doing contemplative dance or something like that.
Don't spread that rumor, because then people come to me like, oh, I just graduated, I need 130. Like, no, you're not gonna get it.
So oftentimes when a company gives you an offer, they'll say there's no room for negotiation.
Yeah, if they point blank call it out, what they're saying is there's no room for negotiation on that base salary.
Okay, what does that mean?
What else do you have at a company? You've got rewards, you've got bonuses, you've got time off, you've got
conference travel,
benefits,
So this,
you've got travel, you've got
this has
training
happened to
dollars.
me where I've had multiple offers and one company told me that. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that there's no room for negotiation. I went with another company, I called them back to tell them I'm taking the other one. And the first thing out of his mouth was, oh, what if we bumped it up a little bit?
That's right. That's right.
You just told me there's no room. What's going on?
There's always room for
You learn something
negotiation.
very important, to not actually trust that first company.
Yes.
And you should actually take the deal.
Everywhere in your life, you should know this. Everything is negotiable.
That's right.
Absolutely everything.
That's right.
Now, if you're going to the grocery store and trying to buy a quart of milk, it's going to be hard. But there are circumstances where even that's negotiable.
That's right.
Everything can be negotiated.
That's exactly right.
If you've done research, you know what the going rate is, and you can say, well, the going rate is actually the average.
Let's be careful about that, because the market rate is not necessarily the rate that that company is willing or capable of paying.
Sure, sure.
Even if you don't negotiate, sometimes the companies eventually will figure out, yeah, we want to pay you more.
Yes, that's exactly right. If they're feeling you're not engaged, you become a key employee, your value there, and they're concerned about you. Oh, they're
Or they've discovered they're completely and utterly dependent upon you, and they will be screwed if you quit.
Exactly. That's exactly right. They need
It happens.
to.
So sometimes, like, the negotiation is kind of irrelevant. The question is, there is the fit or isn't there a fit?
Yes.
Yeah. I do always encourage people to ask for more. It does not hurt to ask. If you've been nice through the whole process, if you're being nice in the negotiation, it's never going to hurt you.
So, like I heard somewhere back there, if they tell you there's no room for negotiation, and then they come back and they say, oh, there is, you shouldn't trust them. You should like leave them.
Well, no, it's a red flag. It's not a.
So like, to what degree is that considered acceptable, right? How common is that? What? I mean, that's a red flag, but how much? I don't know if you can say.
It depends on the culture of the
I'm not a
company.
shitty person. I would do that.
There are some dog-eat-dog companies where that is acceptable behavior. And if you can identify those companies and avoid going there, that's a good thing.
So what has that company done? That company has put themselves at risk of losing you as a candidate. You have the decision to make one way or the other. It's got to be a personal decision. It's got to be on all the merits, not that one line that someone said that they had to redact, right? But it's a fair, it's a fair additional assessment of that company.
And it says something
Certainly
very
that
important
individual.
about the key transaction. I mean, one of the key transactions is the salary. They said it was not negotiable, and then we're willing to negotiate. There's a really, it's actually, I think, more than just a red flag. It's a very important flag.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be. It can be.
Now you
more
see,
than-
I'm going to pay you back. I'm taking over your presentation.
Yeah, go with this.
Salary is not the most important thing when you're getting a new job. The most important thing when you're getting a new job is, will I succeed here? Is this going to work? Because if you get the best salary in the world in a job that you're going to suck at, you're not going to have that job for long. It's far more important that you've got something that you love doing, that you enjoy working on, that you can succeed at. And if you go in at the wrong salary doing that job, odds are you'll probably fix it, or they'll recognize it and fix it. So don't over obsess about salary. I mean, it's important that you not get screwed, but it's more important that this is the right job for you, that you're going to love it.
Well, but to contextualize, I would say, like, if you take that to the logical extreme, we are here in Austin. This is keep pointing out. We're here in Austin, and we're all people. We live in a place, right? We're surrounded by people. We're surrounded by friends. We're surrounded by all this stuff happening. And so we can't deny that Austin's a different place than the Bay Area, than New York. New York is a place where salary is taken to the absolute extreme, where people's entire egos and their self-identity is wrapped up in their bonuses, right? Like, I know people like this, right? And it's actually debilitating for them. The idea, I mean, now their bonuses are quite enviable, but the idea.
But their mortgage, the rent isn't.
No, the rent is not. The rent is not. But the point is that, you know, like when the crash happened, right? When in the financial crash 2008, one of the industries that went up.
There was actually a crash in the rest of the country.
Yeah, so Austin was like, what? But the rest of the country had a real problem. New York in particular. What was interesting was that the one industry that did well in New York in the 2008 crash was the divorce lawyer industry, basically.
Litigation, that's
right,
what I am.
Because a lot of marriages held up by the fact that it was this number, and it's like, we're succeeding because of this number. And so you can take that, I mean, I think to Danny's point, that number is just a number, is not as important. And here in Austin, I think the general ethos and the people you're around, quality of life, I don't know how much work-life balance is necessarily there in the startup world, but certainly quality of life and impact and all these other things, right? We are not, you know, we don't have the angel funding bubble that Silicon Valley does. We don't skew nearly as young as Silicon Valley does because of how long Austin's been doing tech. There are a lot of very, very senior and talented people here that pulls the curve kind of back towards like more reasonable than like 22. So I think overall, I'd say here in Austin, at least, if you're looking for jobs, and this discussion, I would sort of, I think, second Danny's point that salary is only one component of that overall. Like, am I going to learn? Am I around people I'm going to learn from that I feel like are smarter and I'm going to sort of grow?
Absolutely. Am I going to build my career here? Am I going to be able to be successful here? Am I going to be engaged? Am I going to like the people I'm working with? Am I going to like the job I'm doing? There are other components of compensation than salary also, right? There are the benefits, there are the time off, et cetera, another number of components of, we call it total comp, of compensation besides the base salary. Real quickly, I'm going to just fly through this. There are a few different types of interviewing. These are some of the probably three main kinds that are taught to HR folks and then therefore taught to hiring managers and interviewers. One of them is a STAR. They're looking for you to describe the situation, the task that you took for it, the action that was involved, and the response or the result of that situation. It's called STAR interviewing. Behavioral interviewing. Behavioral interviewing is asking someone to apply what they've done historically to something that we need in the current job. So that can be anything from tell me about a time that you wrote a program that did such and such. How'd that go? Da, 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 da. And they're going to ask those same kind of similar situation, task, action, or response questions. That's what they're trying to get at. What behavioral interviewing is trying to tell us is what you've done in the past dictates what you will probably do in the future. So tell me how you handled this. Irate customer, that's good. It's stereotypical behavioral interviewing. How have you handled, tell me about a time that you had an irate customer and how you handled that. A little less likely for you guys, but you know what I'm saying on that? I'm going to fly through this. So if you guys want to talk to me about behavioral interviewing, I can do it for 2 hours. I've already done a lecture on that a couple weeks ago. Situational interviewing. How would you handle this situation? So it's very similar to behavioral interviewing, but instead of asking for a time in the past, what did you do when this happened? It's what would you do if this happened? How would you handle this situation? And that could be anything from, here's a piece of broken code, how are you going to fix it, to how do you behave in a team environment? So those are kind of some of the types of interview styles. So 3 main interview styles. Prepare yourself to understand on your interview or on your resume and in your speaking and some of the questions that you can expect in a standard interview. How would you answer them in this kind of a format? Again, real happy to go into this in detail if anyone's interested. I don't know what's oh, interview tips. Listen closely, then answer the question. So I can't tell you how many times I get a third of the way through the question, someone jumps right in and starts answering, and I'm like, yeah, that's not what I was going to ask you what time it is. So thanks for the monologue. That don't go into a monologue. Ask for rewording if you don't understand a question, but stop, listen to the question, take a breath, think of your answer, and then answer the question. I really do want to understand that you've got the communication skills at any position. You've got the communication skills to not only talk, but to also listen, talk appropriately. Don't go into a monologue. If someone asks you a question, they're trying to keep you down. Every interviewer has somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour to interview you. 30 minutes in a monologue is not telling them anything except for one aspect of you.
So I don't know how many people have ever been in sales. There's the 80-20 rule where you listen to 80% of the time, talk 20% of the time. How much of that is, granted, in interviews, you're supposed to be giving information, but how valid is that in the interview process?
Yeah, it's probably closer to 50-50 in the interview process. You want to be able to ask and answer. It should be give and take in an interview, and I'm not saying, typically the interviewer is going to have the question and we want you to answer enough. I mean, it's going to be more talking typically than it is listening. I'm not saying shut up and don't say anything. I'm saying listen to what they're asking and answer that question. If they have follow-up questions for it, they're going to ask you the follow-up questions for it. So keep it concise. You go into a monologue and you've spent some of that time that they're trying to get to know you on just one aspect of who you are. Oh God, I'm almost scared to open this can of worms again. Prepare to talk about your failures. Be honest with yourself. How have you or can you overcome your weaknesses? We really talked about that a lot, so I'm going to move forward. Balance confidence with ego. Oh, I did make it on there. Balance confidence with ego, confidence with cockiness, confidence with arrogance. No one wants to work with the arrogant guy. I mean, just no one does. The arrogant people don't even want to work with the arrogant people. For real. Because no one wants bigger ego than their own in the room, right? Ask good questions. Someone was talking about preparing questions earlier. I don't remember who it was that talked about, of course it was you, about preparing good questions. Prepare the questions. Good questions aren't, how much does this pay? Good questions are the things that matter to you that will help us understand the things that matter to you. I can talk further about that if you guys have questions about questions. And then take notes, make sure, as we mentioned earlier, make sure it's okay, have a pen and paper. If you are, sitting back and kind of almost feeling like you don't care what the answers to the questions are, I'm going to assume you don't care about the job, you don't care about your career, you don't care about this company, you don't care about the answers. You're just asking me questions because someone told you need to ask questions in an interview. So take notes, make sure it's okay. I don't know if there's another page.
That's it, you're done.
Okay, that's it, I'm done.
No, the questions.
Came up to meet you guys for interview here last time I spoke at this a year and a half ago-ish. I had probably 75 emails in my inbox that next morning, so thank you. I think there were only 30 people here, and had a lot of very engaged, very interesting conversations with a lot of folks. That's my email address if you want to type it down. Happy to talk to you guys up there. I know we've run completely late. I know we've also run out of beer, right? There's nothing left there.
No, there's whole case of Shiner.
Oh, there's another case.
But
want a meal?
Don't try it out.
Don't encourage us.
I'm actually curious. How many people in here have had to look through more than 100 resumes in their lives? Right. Okay.
Per week?
Yeah, exactly.
I was curious.
Easily 100 a week.
I think being on the other side of that equation really changes your perspective a little bit. I think,
Okay, so I have to ask some fun questions. So you talked about LinkedIn. Tell us about Facebook. Can you find
HR
us?
as well, more than staffing. Of course I can.
Can you find us on Facebook?
Of course, if you're on Facebook, we can find you. You know that. You all know that. You're all technologists. Not all companies do searches on Facebook before interviewing. Most all companies do searches on Facebook before making an offer. On all social media. So the naked drunk picture of you and your girlfriend is probably best left offline. And by probably I mean seriously. Don't.
So what do I do if someone else with the same first and last name as myself is putting up drunk pictures on Facebook?
Tell them.
Photograph.
Tell them up front.
No, tell them up front. Like, by the way, if you look for me, this is not me. That's actually a great way to icebreaker in a conversation. Because if it's that bad, you guys probably all agree that's really bad, and that puts you on the same side of the table.
You should Google yourself before your interview.
You should all
least
Google
not as dirty as it
yourselves. Not
sounds.
before your
Not as
interview.
dirty
You
as
should
it
know
sounds.
what's out there, either under your name or under someone else's name that happens to sound or look or be spelled similarly to
But
yours.
seriously, good stories. What have you thrown out interviews for that you've seen on Facebook?
Hold on. If you Google Lisa Novak, you will find she's a singer in Houston, is that right?
She is.
That doesn't pay her bills?
That's correct. The other Lisa Novak used to live and work in Austin, Texas. She played at Antone's and Stubbs and Saxon Pub quite a bit. And Lisa Novak actually turned out lived down the street from me, and I got her collection of notices. She wasn't paying her electric bill or her
So if
phone
you
bill.
Google, you know this is an issue, you can tell the people, probably just one person in HR.
Even as easy as, by the way, I'm not that Lisa Novak musician in Houston, right?
Yes. Is it better to have a plan? I mean, if you're not a Facebook person, it's better to have a Facebook profile or to not have one.
If you're not a Facebook person, you don't need to be on. Don't fake it or force it. Nah. If I can't find you, I can't.
Just don't put your bong photo on Facebook, that's all.
Right. Right.
Or don't go on Facebook afterwards and trash talk the hiring manager. I've seen that.
Oh gosh, that's a very good point. Trash talking your current company or the holy crap, it's already 5 o'clock and my asshole boss is making me work till 5:30. You're probably not gonna fit in our world, right? That stuff, I see that stuff. That's a good what are you looking for on Facebook that doesn't get hired. Yeah, it's not just the drunk pictures, it's how you behave on Facebook in general. And frankly, if I know that you've been in a full-time job for the last 2 months and you have 617 posts a day for the last 2 months, guess who's not engaged in their job? Guess who I don't need playing on Facebook at my company? Yes, that's a good one.
Okay, different question. So one of your slides you talked about the phone screen and salary requirements. How do you handle the salary question? You know, I show up for an interview and they present me with a form and it's got 4 pages of, you know, where did I go to school and what were the salaries of my last 4 jobs? I mean, how do I handle that?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people leave them blank, and you certainly can in an application situation. You're going to want to talk openly and honestly. Perfectly valid question. When someone asks you, it's really about how I word it. I managed to get your salary out of you. But it's how you word it. Anyway, if someone asks you your salary, you can ask, tell me what's the range for this position? So I can figure out if I'm in line for it. You can ask the range. It may or may not give it to you. It can be give and take. Ultimately, we have to know what your freaking salary is, so you're gonna give it up eventually, right? Yes.
Does it even matter? Like, I mean, my expectation of like what my salary current is and what why I'm searching for a job or like what my expectations are 2 different things. Like in my mind, so like is that even like I don't have any issue like disclosing my salary.
Yeah, then great. Thank you, Dream.
But I mean, like, is it actually an issue? Like, is that like
it can be?
Yeah,
it's a huge issue because the fundamental rule of negotiation is, as Danny says, well, the first rule is to know your counterparty's background. But the other thing is the first person to put down a number is in disadvantage, right? Basically, the first person, and when you put your
I'm going to draw a chart. Keep talking.
Yeah, basically, you set the frame and you sort of it's anchoring, right? It's going to be plus or minus at most 30% of that number.
So what's your salary requirement? You're going to say a number, and automatically you're going to wipe out everything above. Now suppose my budget for this job was this range here, and you just said a number, all of a sudden, you've just given up all of that there when you name a number. So it's very common that you try and get the other person, I mean, we're getting into negotiation stuff now, you try and get the other person to put down a number first, because if they tell you it's this range here, then suddenly you might have been willing to take a job down here, and all of a sudden, because they said the starting salary for this job is $200,000 to $250,000, you're not going to take.
In some cases, anchoring could work in your favor when, so for example, if you're happy with your salary and you're just looking in that range, you just say, this is where I am, and I'm looking for the same ballpark. Whereas if that's the primary reason that you're looking for a job, say you don't talk about unless they ask you what your current salary is, say this is what I'm looking for, and
Yes.
dropping a much higher anchor. So I mean, this is just something I've read.
Good recruiters
It's true.
shouldn't ask
It
you what
depends on
you're
your
looking
motivation,
for, they
right?
should ask you what
But
you're
you should know that to put a number out there is an act that you should be doing intentionally, because it does. That is a play that you have, right?
And sometimes it's going to work very differently depending on the situation. You might be working with an external recruiter who's representing you at firms. You might be working with an internal recruiter. You might be talking to a hiring manager. And every person has different personalities and kind of what their expectations are. So that initial, what are we looking for? Can we mesh? Can often be an awkward conversation. It varies from person to person. It varies from, bless you, company to company and kind of how it's handled. Consider what you're worth, what your value is, and then know that your value is what that job is going to pay you.
But if you look back to your slides on the phone screen, compensation was the first bullet on the phone
Yeah,
screen.
it probably shouldn't have been. That was.
But it has been, like, that's one of the early questions that I get.
Yeah, do you fit in this range? I mean, if it's a $50,000 job and you're looking for $100,000, let's not waste anyone's time, right?
If I could be stereotypical for a second, I have dealt with a lot of engineers over my career, and I've gone over to the pointy-haired boss side of things. A lot of engineers are hopeless at negotiation. You ask them, and they cannot tell a lie. They will tell you the truth. So of course she's going to ask you. It's her job.
Okay.
And it's yours. I mean, you
And in
can
fact, I
choose
know
to
you
play
people well enough
poker.
that I ask you what you're currently making. I don't ask you what you want.
I mean, she's not the evil. She's not the evil HR recruiter, but they exist. And some of them will ask you, "Oh, please, you're playing poker with me. Would you mind laying your cards on the table where I can see them?" I mean, that's the equivalent of what they just asked you.
What I have found to be the right answer is to first say, it's premature to talk about salary until I find out if there's a fit. And that has worked very well for me in negotiations.
Yes.
It basically says, let's find out if there's a reason to talk salary.
Yes.
And that's really, it lets you push that
Now,
issue
some
off.
companies won't let you get any further with that. Like, they gotta know, are you making 100 and this is a 50K job, right?
Then they should put the number that they care
And that's
about.
exactly right. You talk to
If they
them,
care
that's-
about that,
That's
then
the
they
point
should-
where you talk to them about, well, tell me a little bit more about the range here, and I'll let you know if I fit in it. Ultimately, we're gonna get, I mean, you've gotta get to that point, so.
So I have a different question. I think you've been very forthright in talking about your perspective, which seems to be more from the HR side. From the engineering manager's side, like, what are some of the reasons why they would eliminate somebody? Not why you would eliminate, but why they would.
A lot of the same reasons,
So,
I would argue.
the thing is that as a former hiring manager, engineering manager, whatever, the thing that I would change about Lisa's presentation is focus a little bit more on teamwork. I don't care how good you are as an individual. I care what my team, our team, can do. So it's really important that the other people on the team like you. That's why they're interviewing you. Part of it is because they're going to help me. As you know, I have to ultimately make the decision and take responsibility for whether or not you work out. But part of it is I want them to be part of the decision because I want them to accept you and make you successful and be bought into adding this person on the team. But team productivity, team output is the only thing that matters. So you're not just selling the HR person, you're not just selling the hiring manager. You got to, find out, and it's a two-way thing. You got to feel like this team is a team I want to be on.
I appreciate that Danny said that the team, they'd have to figure out if they like you. He didn't say they have to figure out if they can work with you. And 10 years ago, that's what it was. We need to figure out if we can work with you, if we can work with each other. It really is more about, do you like us? Can you work that closely for this number of hours? Jobs have changed now. Jobs aren't 40 hours a week anymore, right? So the liking, that fine line between being able to work with someone and liking people, there's a difference there. Goes back to the be nice, the difference between confidence and arrogance.
I've been talking with people. The discussion about whether you use a recruiter, you sign up with a recruiter, or just kind of go into companies' colds. Do you have an opinion on that?
Well, I have to pay a recruiter a fee.
Right.
And I don't have to pay you to hire you.
Right.
Except that whole pay thing. So most companies try to avoid using recruiters if they can. A lot of companies, especially startups or smaller companies, they don't have the resources, the internal resources, and so they'll use more recruiters. So it's what avenue is that company utilizing?
What does a recruiter typically make on a, let's say, $100,000 hire or $150,000?
15 to 20% of base pay.
So they get paid up front the day you hire on, or
it's usually about a 30-day gap. They get hired 30 days later on the money.
okay, and then if you, it turns out that
sometimes it's a 2 to 3 month, like if you're fired within 90 days kind of thing, if it doesn't work out, then
there are guarantees.
Yeah, there's guarantees and there's kind of a curve.
So
sometimes
do recruiters ever have an incentive to misrepresent the situation or misrepresent the job, or
not really because of the guarantee? I mean, savvy enough internal HR people will include that 90-day guarantee thing. In the last year, I've lost 2 people at the closer to 120 to 150 day mark. Recruiters have replaced them for free, even though it was a 90-day guarantee too. It's about staying, it's about that partnership and developing.
Their whole thing is making money
That's right.
flow.
They can't burn.
So if they burn a bridge, they're screwed.
I've seen recruiters try to get people to lie about their experience.
Well, that sucks. You should run away from that recruiter and tell them that.
You should out those. Actually, you should out those recruiters because that's not good for anybody.
Yeah,
right? They're hurting them. They're hurting
world.
the people looking for jobs. They're hurting people trying to hire.
So, do you use that, the money that would go to a recruiter, are you open to giving that as like a signing bonus?
Absolutely not.
everything is negotiable? Yes, she is. She just told you no. But if you're the right candidate and she really thinks this is what it takes to get him, then I'll tell you what, you'll probably
I got money in my pocket. Where that other money goes to is marketing to you guys in other ways. It's job fairs. It's I don't use job boards.
So
Meetups anymore.
If you're buying a house and you're buying an existing house that's already been built, there's a realtor, there's a buyer's realtor, there's a seller's, and they always get a percentage. Typically, it's 3% each. If you go to a new house and you bring a realtor with you, do they get the 3%? Of course they do, because the guy built, the company building the 500 homes, they want the realtors to bring their clients in there too. So they're going to pay that extra 3% to the realtor. But if you show up without a realtor, they can't reduce the price by 3%, because if word got out about that, the realtors would get pissed at them and stop bringing their clients. But I tell you what, you can easily get 3% worth of free upgrades in your kitchen. Or everything's negotiable. If you know that you're not coming in with you said 15% of $150,000 is $22,500. You're coming in with a $22,500 price tag around your head when you could have found the hiring manager yourself. Something. I mean, I don't know what it's costing you, but I guarantee you it's costing you something. That's a car right there. Maybe not a brand new car, but that's a car.
Most internal people don't screw someone's salary over based on this. We've got a budget for staffing, and we've got a budget for the recruiting process, and they are not the same budget. So it's not, I'm intending to spend $20,000 on the next 5 hires each. I have a $100,000 recruiting budget. And this is the budget for this position that falls in this department.
So when a company pays the referral bonus, this is why. Because I'd rather pay you $5,000 to bring in your friend. And by the way, referral hires work out so much better across the board, because you're not going to bring in a bozo. And you're not going to dump your friend into the shit either. You're going to bring him into a situation where you know they're going to succeed.
So how come those are much lower than the 15 to 20%?
Because if I'm a rational manager and I offer you $1,000 and I can get the same result as if I offer you $5,000, what am I going to do?
It's because I would bring in a bozo for $15,000.
There is an aversion that happens.
That was awesome. I'm so using that one.
All right. Well, I think maybe if there's unless there's any other pressing questions, we should take it to the bar.
Which bar?
Available. I don't know. Does anyone have?
Quiet. Someone's quiet.
So we're quiet during South by, yeah.
After the triangle, flying saucer is going to be.
That's out dry. That's too far.
Worst question you ever had you be asked during an interview?
Ooh, that's a great question. After 20 years of HR and interviewing, it's the heard it all thing. And I do have, we HR people in our HR circle talk about the book. By the way, the book doesn't really exist, but I swear we're gonna write it someday of all the crazy things. My most insane overall experience is I was interviewing a gentleman for a analog design engineer position, and he was from a different state, and his wife called me and threatened to commit suicide if I hired her husband. And to call the police in the county and have them go and check on me. It was really good. My weirdest. Yeah.
Buffalo Billiards. Buffalo Billiards is where we're going. Ready?
Thank you, Lisa.